No, well, we'll come to Mr.
Who's
Trump
the biggest idiot?
We'll come to the President in a moment. Which one's a blithering idiot?
No, who's the biggest idiot, Angela Rayner said? Who would you say
Who do you think is the biggest idiot?
I mean, it's tough competition, if I'm honest. It's really tough competition. I mean, we've got the highest death rates in Europe, and Donald Trump is killing, thousands of Americans by giving them duff advice, and his macho, I'm all right, look at me, I've survived COVID. He's an absolute buffoon. He has no place in the White House. He's an embarrassment, and he should be ashamed of himself, especially when thousands of Americans have died. COVID is a serious disease. It's a serious pandemic. People have died, loved ones have died, and he's an absolute disgrace. And so is Boris Johnson for not being able to even know his own rules. I think they're both idiots, and we deserve better than them.
So an equal prize.
Angela Rayner just angrily attacked Donald Trump on live television, calling him a buffoon and demonstrating confidence that she knows the answers to all questions. She even dared to say that she couldn't decide who was worse, Trump or Boris Johnson. This is a bold, but at the same time reckless statement. Let's be honest, this is the same woman who was caught off guard when she was trying to figure out the basics of her own politics. She should focus on her work. If she doesn't like it, it's better to leave. She talks about grandiose plans, but when it comes to real numbers, logistics, or the implementation of labor initiatives, she constantly faces setbacks. Most recently, she was caught on live television using statistics incorrectly. Instead of admitting her mistake, she just brushed it off, hoping no one would notice.
We spoke to many businesses. They've been working with us to get the Employment Rights Bill forward.
Can you name a company, a few of them, that have welcomed these proposals?
Well, we've worked with many of the companies. I've worked with so many of them on this. I've had many roundtables, as the business secretary, and they've very much welcomed the work that we've been doing on making sure that people...
You must be able to name a few, because I can name all the companies, the recruitment companies, Hayes, Manpower, Randstad. They've signed the letter saying this is the wrong approach. You're going to put jobs at risk. Which are the companies that have welcomed your employment?
But people noticed, and this is not the first time. She made promises she didn't even seem to know about, like a plan to build 1.5 million new homes. Sounds good, doesn't it? But when it turns out that a significant part of the funds may go to illegal immigrants, it causes a shock. When asked about it, she looked like she'd never heard of it before. How can you not know the details of your own policy? And now she's attacking Trump. Whether people like him or not, Trump has indeed fulfilled many of his promises in the United States by lowering taxes, increasing jobs, and signing peace agreements. While Rayner has a hard time getting through one interview without getting tangled up in the basic facts. Maybe she should focus on understanding her own performance before criticizing someone who, like her or not, has real experience in achieving success.
Well, like I say, I've spoke to many companies, we've had many roundtables with them, and we've been discussing it, and they've acknowledged that there has to be a balance and broadly welcomed it. We've made changes as opposed to, for example, on the probation periods when we listened to what business said. So we have the probation periods as well alongside the balance of rights from day one.
Will you get me a list of those companies, and then we can call them and say, do you welcome Angela Rayner's proposals?
Well, there's been many of the companies that we've worked with, like I say, so many of them.
But that's where things get really exciting. Trump is also not averse to playing mind games. Instead of simply responding to the criticism, he actually praised Keir Starmer, saying that he had worked well for the benefit of Great Britain. Was it sarcasm or a clever strategy to warm up the situation? In any case, the Labour Party looks extremely awkward, especially when Rayner walks around and throws punches that she doesn't seem able to deflect. Angela Rayner talks like she has everything under control, but when it comes to real politics, the details just don't add up. Take, for example, her grandiose promise of 1.5 million new homes. It sounds ambitious, but here's the catch. A significant portion of these homes could go to illegal immigrants, and it came as a real shock. She didn't even seem to know about it until she was asked. How can you promote a policy without understanding who it actually benefits? This is the main problem. She gives figures, makes loud statements, but when they demand details from her, she begins to resist. This is not just a one-time mistake, it's becoming a pattern. She falls for the bait, off, and hopes that no one will notice. But people do.
Will the Deputy Prime Minister join me in applauding the brave Labour staff members who've travelled across the Atlantic to campaign against Donald Trump?
What I say to the honourable gentleman is that people in their own time often go and campaign, and that's what we've seen. It happens in all political parties. People go and campaign and they do what they want to do in their own time with their own money.
Let's talk about a reality that just screams for help. The UK is already mired in a serious housing crisis. Citizens don't have enough affordable housing, and in this critical situation, the Labour Party is proposing a plan that prioritises people who shouldn't even be in the country. While Angela Rayner spends precious time insulting Trump, she should be cleaning up her backyard. Trump, despite all the criticism, really puts the interests of Americans first. His immigration policy has tightened border controls, and his administration is actively fighting illegal border crossings. Compare this to the Labour Party, which seems to care more about providing housing for non-citizens than helping Britons who are experiencing real difficulties.
But why do you think that you and Keir Starmer, sitting in Westminster, know better than local councillors on the ground?
Well, first of all, we consulted back when we were elected in July. I started a consultation on the National Planning Policy Framework. So experts, local councils, public were able to feed into that consultation. So we'll have clarity on the National Planning Policy Framework. Then we're having mandatory local plans. So local areas will have to come forward with what they think their housing needs are and how they're going to deliver it. So there's no need to then keep going round and round in a system. If you deliver on the National Planning Policy Framework and within the local plan, then we should be able to streamline that process and get those developments.
But if you...
Rayner's ignorance is not only embarrassing, it raises serious concerns about the leadership of the Labour Party. If she can't handle her own politics, what else escapes her control? Under Keir Starmer's leadership, Britain's problems are only getting worse. Crime is on the rise, the economy is shaky, and now there's a housing plan that doesn't make any sense. It's not just that Rayner looks clueless on screen. The question is about leadership or its complete absence. If this is the vision of the Labour Party's future, it's no wonder that people are starting to doubt whether they can handle this task. Angela Rayner's housing plan isn't the only thing failing. Over and over again in interviews, she is caught off guard when she tries to explain how Labour is going to solve Britain's problems. She talks a lot, but when it comes to details, there are simply no answers.
You cut through the jargon, what is going to happen is that you are in some cases going to force councils to build in parts of the country where they might not want to, and they believe that local people don't all want there to be building. So I'll ask you again, why do you think you and Keir Starmer, as a matter of principle, know better than people in local areas?
Well, at the moment, we haven't had mandatory local plans, and therefore we've seen speculative developments in areas through permitted development. I'm saying to local planning and local authorities, get your plan in order so you decide, based on the affordability and the challenges in your area that you know about, decide where you think this development should happen. If they follow the National Planning Policy Framework and that local plan, then we shouldn't have it stuck in the system for years, and therefore we're going to push ahead.
Angela Rayner immediately attacked Trump, but let's really compare their achievements. Trump, regardless of whether someone likes him or not, has really achieved impressive results. Under his leadership, the United States has seen record job growth, taxes have been lowered, and the problem of illegal immigration has been dealt with determination. His administration negotiated peace agreements, renegotiated trade agreements, and put America's interests first. Now let's look at Rayner. She has spent months in a government that cannot handle immigration controls, struggles to improve the economic situation, and oversees the decline of public services. She can mock Trump as much as she likes, but the fact remains that he has achieved results, while the Labour Party is still trying to figure out how to do it. The contrast between them is simply amazing. Trump has strengthened America's position on the world stage, while the Labour Party, led by Starmer and Rayner, has weakened the UK. The economy is in a deplorable state, crime is on the rise, and public confidence in politicians has reached an all-time low. However, instead of solving these pressing problems, Rayner spends his time insulting a man who is not even involved in British politics. And here's what's really surprising: Trump barely reacts to her attacks. Instead of engaging in conflict, he's playing mind games, praising Starmer, and making the Labour Party look even more insecure. This is a classic technique. He allows his opponents to destroy themselves. See you later.